What happens when the picture-perfect life falls apart behind closed doors? Alvin and Joy Slaughter, yes, that Alvin Slaughter, both walked through broken marriages and painful divorces. But God wasn't finished with their story. He brought them together, gave them hope, and now they're helping others find healing and restoration. And later, licensed counselor and author Kenza Haddock pulls back the mask on narcissism. With both biblical truth and clinical insight, she reveals the hidden patterns of abuse and answers the question, what really makes a narcissist? It's real stories, real faith, and real freedom. This is Unscripted Faith. Let's go. Welcome to Unscripted Faith. I am so excited and honored you chose to join me today. Today is going to be unlike any other because we have one who is a very own family member of our Cornerstone Television Network here, Alvin Slaughter. He's a friend who's lifted us for years with his voice and his joy. Today, he's here with his lovely wife, Joy, to share their powerful testimony of how God restored what was broken and gave them both a beautiful second chance. Alvin and Joy, welcome to Unscripted Faith.
Hey,
good morning.
Hi, Angela. Good to be with you.
Good morning. So excited to have you with us. Now, let me ask you both. Alvin, you were traveling the world. You were singing all over the place, and people knew you. You were more famous than Dill Pickles.
I don't know about Dill Pickles. I'm more famous than a bacon and cheese sandwich.
And Joy, you had massive success in your own right, 18 years of profound ministry in Haiti. And both of you, though, were going through some things behind the scenes. It all looked like success out front, but there was more going on. Tell us and take us back to that part of your story and how you came into the place you are now.
Well, I went to Haiti feeling very hopeless. And when God called me, it was like, I knew what hopeless felt like. So that became my fuel. Whatever we're going through, we can use it. God can make use of whatever we're going through. But I was coming to the end of my ministry because I was raising up leaders in Haiti. And I had gone through divorce and was ready to retire from the ministry. And then another chapter opened in my life where I met Alvin, and I had never heard of him before in my life. I know, he's really sad right now.
I'm leaving.
Don't worry, Alvin. She didn't know what dill pickles were either.
That's entirely right.
We didn't have those in Haiti.
No, and I started traveling and singing in 1990. And so it's been, I can't even believe it, 35 years. I started when I was about 3 years old.
That's right.
So it's been 35 years on the road. But during that period of time, when marriages fall apart, most marriages don't fall apart overnight. Yeah. Most marriages that I found anyway, have a progression of things that happen. And that's kind of what happened with mine. And I was not looking to get married again. I was not looking for anyone. But, I fell in love for the first time in my life with Joy. And we met at I was singing at an event, and I met her at the event. I found out that she did Haiti, and I was, I wanted to be able to help raise funds because I love the passion that she has.
He's never given me $1 yet, though, just so you know. I'm still waiting on a donation.
I'm still evaluating,
yeah,
I'm
right.
still evaluating. You don't do things right away. You got to take your time. And so she gave me her card. We started corresponding, and over the year, we developed a friendship. I didn't see her for almost a year.
Well, what happened was I gave him my mission card because he said he was interested in the mission. So when I got home that night, you give cards out to a lot of people, and sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't reach out. But I got home that evening, and there was a message in my inbox, and I'm a responder, so I responded. And then he wrote back, and I responded, and he wrote back, and I responded. I'm still responding to this day. It's all these years later, and I'm still responding to him.
But it's an amazing thing. And, when you're starting over in a new relationship or whatever it is, you have to learn new skills. Because I got to tell you the truth. When I was married the first time, I got married we had our 2 kids before we got married. And back in the 70s and stuff, That was a disgrace to the family. They silenced me in the church and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. I get it. But anyway, I had no relationship skills. You know, I knew church, but I knew nothing about dealing with another person from their perspective, their lifestyle, their brokenness, their successes, their hurts. So we get married, and she has triggers, and I have triggers from our past, and her triggers are triggering my trigger, and my triggers are triggering hers. So we had to learn the process of how to take two totally different lives. You know, I'm from New York City originally. She's from Canada. Her father was Amish up until he was 16. So they come from a very conservative farming kind of community. I, I come from 42nd Street Broadway. You know, I'm black, she's white. You know, I'm tall, she's short. I'm right, she's wrong. You got all these things going on.
The first time we walked into my doctor's office, I brought him, and my doctor, she's cute. She's a little sassy. She looks up from the desk and she goes, "Can't get any more opposite than that."
Well, they can't see because we're sitting down. But she's 5'1" and I'm 6'2". So there's like a Mutt and Jeff deal going on here. But we had a lot to learn, and it took years of learning and brokenness and disillusion. I knew that I loved her, but I didn't know. I'll tell you what she said to me. She said to me years ago. She said to me, "You know how to protect me physically, but you don't know how to protect my heart." Wow. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I don't know what she means by that. Because again, she came from different circumstances that were different than mine, different influences that were mine. She spent years on the mission field with people from the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. I come from singing on big stages and big concerts in churches and that kind of thing. And our worlds collided in so many different ways, just from just our backgrounds, our hurts, the things that we the things that we did for a living. So make a long story short is that we went on a mission of studying everything about marriage and relationships. So at the age of, I just turned 70, but at the age of 55, I went on a journey of studying, enjoyed it too, everything we could about relationships, because we knew we loved each other, but we didn't know how to make it work. Wow. And I studied everything. Joy studied. We went through a course for a year and after going through it, we thought we were going to become relationship coaches, helping other couples to navigate through the difficulties of relationship. Because when people first come together, this is my own interpretation, I don't think people are really in love. You're not really in love until you walk through some stuff,
That's true.
and so we had to study it, and then we wanted to help other people. But then I realized she really is a very patient, nurturing person. And I don't know if I can sit and listen to people tell me about their marriage problems for an hour. I mean, I'm like, get out of here, Whereas her, she
it's hard enough listening to me.
Yeah, she can listen to validate. And that's one thing I had to learn. I had to learn how to validate, because I used to argue like an attorney. If I had more facts than I thought she had facts, then I won. But I realized that it wasn't about that. It was about validating. And I said, well, what if I don't agree with her? But I had to learn to validate her feelings and her emotions. And then along with that, God changing some things in my heart, changing the way that I argued, changing the way that I saw things, changing the fact that she wasn't the only one that had some broken areas, but I had broken areas too. Just being on stage doesn't mean you don't have broken areas. And God has done a real work in our heart and life. And now we're going out I'm still going out and singing, and we just got back from overseas and some other things, and I sing, and then Joy comes up. I open up for her now. I sing, and then she comes and preaches, and she razzle-dazzle and shakes and bakes, and then I'm her armor bearer and her, her bodyguard. But
you're getting a comedy show here today too.
But I'm so proud of Joy, of how God has used her now to really help couples all around the world, because she does virtual coaching, and she's been able to help couples literally all around the world. First from, I don't want to put it in order, but one of the main things is from her education and teaching, but also from our own lives. The Bible says, once you have been strengthened, strengthen your brother, strengthen your sister. And I think I'm so proud of what God is doing in her. And I'm so happy that out of our abundance of what God has done in our lives, the brokenness and the hurts, and now how God is using Joy in those kind of ways, and us, even being on this program, to be able to speak hope in the lives of other people.
Yes. Well, I love your story, and I love that both of you were very teachable, Do you feel, Joy, do you feel like that is something you're seeing even in clients now that is critical to the success of their marriage? Or can they learn to be teachable and open to criticism and change?
Most of the couples, I do a consultation with them, and I want to make sure that they are teachable, because if they're not, I mean, it's not myself that will change their relationship. It's them doing the work. So the goals that are set to move forward, they're the ones who have to do the work. I just help keep them accountable. So but even one person in a marriage can change it. We think we have no power to change our marriage when it's disconnected, but every person in the marriage, I have 50% power. So I'm not powerless, and Alvin has 50% power. So even if we're disconnected and one person starts by doing simple things like daily affirmations, pointing out the strengths, because before we're married, we seem to point out all the strengths and the positives. But then when we get married, it's like, I notice all the flaws. I notice you didn't do the dishes. I notice you didn't make the bed. Instead of maybe a wife thanking her husband, okay, he didn't do the dishes, he didn't make the bed, but he helped with bedtime with the kids. So thank you for helping with bedtime with the kids. In fact, a little thing even happened with us the other day, and we try to be intentional about our relationship, about gratitude, about thanking each other for the simple things. And the other day we were driving, and I saw a car coming, and men don't typically like if a wife says, watch out for that car or whatever. It's like, stay in your lane. They don't like to be told. So I noticed a car was coming, and I said, babe, there's a car coming. Watch out for that car. Instead of getting defensive, he said, thank you for warning me about that car. And I just realized how much I appreciated that he didn't get defensive, and I never said anything. But later in the day, I thought, you know what? I need to be intentional and thank him for receiving that and not getting defensive. So I made a point of saying, babe, I really appreciated something you did today. When I warned you about the car, you thanked me for pointing it out, because it could have caused an accident. And so many times we let those little things slip. And we start just getting defensive, and instead of appreciating what our spouse is really trying to do, which is help.
Wow, that's so good. And I'm going to have to remember that as I'm slamming my foot over on the gasless, brakeless side of the car, worried about the next hit that's coming. But that is really, really powerful. In our last minute here, I hear that we need to be teachable. We need to be open. We have the power, even if our spouse doesn't seem like they want to change, we have the power to change our marriage. And we can do that by focusing on gratitude. What is one other tip that we could employ today to make our marriages better?
One thing that really changed ours was validation. So, for example, if I go to Alvin with, I feel something, let's say I felt someone did something to me, and maybe he doesn't agree with it. Maybe he might say, well, I didn't see it that way. His perspective is different. So he's kind of dismissing my feelings, So in other words, if he would say, really, tell me about it, get curious. Don't dismiss your spouse's feelings. Get curious about what they're really trying to say, and show curiosity instead of telling them what your perspective is about something. So validation.
So good. Get curious and validate. Thank you both so much, Alvin and Joy. Thank you for being with us today on Unscripted Faith, and thank you for all you've already done for the ministry and the bride, and for what is yet ahead of you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Angela. We appreciate it. God bless.
Yes. Bless you. Bless you. Oh, powerful. I love that couple. Listen, the word narcissism is also a term used in our society often today. But my next guest says it's time to unmask the narcissistic abuse, and she is here to tell us how. Stay tuned.
Man, I have loved the joyful moments in my life, whether it's graduating from school, or when Jean said I do, or maybe hearing my child's voice for the first time. Those are some great joys, maybe even some silly joys, like when my team wins the Super Bowl. That's a kind of joy, though very temporary. But the greatest joy is in the Bible where it says, in your presence is fullness of joy. Listen, our relationship with God, we all know it's important, but it's sometimes we're just walking through. But when we really get down to it, it's that time with Him that is an echo of what the real joy will be. In His presence for eternity, enjoying that relationship that we were created to have, the one who loves us the most. What a joy.
I am so excited to welcome back my next guest. Kenza Haddock knows the world of trauma, having grown up in a Muslim household with the belief that one is born a Muslim and dies a Muslim, until Jesus appeared to her in a dream and she became a follower of Christ. Kenza is now a licensed professional counselor and tells us it's time to unmask the hidden patterns of narcissistic abuse. Kenza, welcome to Unscripted Faith.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege, and I'm so excited. I'm always excited to talk about Jesus and mental health, my two favorite subjects.
Yes, girl, yes. And when we meet Jesus, He changes everything just like He did for you. First, I can't help but notice, girl, we're coordinating here. We match.
I know. I love it. I was like, oh, we're matching today.
Same. Well, Kenza, I want to hop in because you experienced the Lord. You met Him through a dream. This Jesus came to you in a dream and changed everything for you. And now today, you're kind of unmasking this narcissistic idea of abuse and all of that. Tell me, where does meeting Jesus and uncovering this narcissistic abuse, where did it meet?
Well, so what's interesting is I grew up in a household that had trauma. I experienced trauma growing up, but I didn't know it was trauma. And so when we don't heal from the abuse that we experienced, and thankfully the Lord called me into the field of counseling, but during that training period in my life, He was showing me how I was repeating the same patterns over and over because I hadn't healed from my own trauma because of just the perspective I had of the world. And so then I become a counselor and I have people sitting on the other side of the couch or in front of me, and I'm seeing they're living out the same pattern over and over, even if it's with different people. And so, yeah, I mean, my specialty is trauma, but what I have noticed also is the word narcissist is thrown everywhere. I mean, if you see social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, and I'm like, okay, the Bible is very clear that we don't fight against flesh and blood, right? We fight against spiritual forces of evil. That's one. And number two, from a clinical perspective, you have to meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. Just because someone doesn't agree with me doesn't make them a narcissist. I mean, let's just be real. And if someone takes me on the wrong day, they'll say, oh, what's wrong with her? Oh, she's a narcissist. So being that it's a personality disorder, that means that person displays those behaviors over a period of not only months, but years. Yeah. And so that's one of the main components of narcissistic personality.
Well, I love that you're bringing that to light because it is thrown around everywhere. Like you said, if you don't agree with someone, oh, they're a narcissist because it's their idea or the highway, you know. So share with us and break down a little bit of this narcissistic personality. Like what actually makes someone a narcissist?
Yeah, so it's one of two things. Number one, we were all born, and this is where I love how science affirms what the Bible already says. There has been research done on people who showed just narcissistic tendencies, and they tested them biologically. They found that people have biological markers of narcissism. Okay. Now, they've only tested the people who showed those tendencies, but that affirms what the Bible already says. We were all born with a sinful nature. Yes. Apart from Jesus, this is what I say. We all are selfish by nature. Yes. The Bible affirms that. And unless we give our lives to Jesus and we are truly submitted under His authority, yes, we are going to display narcissistic tendencies. And that can turn into full-blown narcissism. Now, what narcissism truly is, there are a bunch of symptoms, but some of those are an exaggerated sense of self-importance. They truly have deceived themselves into believing they are God's gift to earth. Not that, oh, God uses me as a vessel. No, they within themselves are God's gift to earth. They also have an obsession with being the best, whether that's the greatest, the most beautiful, the smartest, the richest. And I'm not talking about a spirit of excellence. We're talking, the spirit of excellence is submitted under God's authority. This is I'm going to just carve my own way and show off because they want to exalt themselves. And all of these symptoms are only mimicking the great narcissist, and that is the devil. I mean, Satan is the great narcissist. I looked up, I just studied just things that he did. I mean, from Isaiah 14, when he said, I will ascend the throne and I will be like God. I mean, he wanted to take God's place, not in his goodness. He wanted God's power. And that's what a narcissist does.
Wow, I love that definition. So even when you say, that it's submitted under Christ's, authority, under God's authority, what are some of those cues that even if within our family or within ourselves that we're battling, that we can say, hey, you know what? I'm not submitted under Christ here, or this person doesn't seem to follow under Christ's authority.
So there's that sense of entitlement. I want what I want when I want it, regardless of, I understand we all at some point in our lives fight just the tendency of waiting for God's timing. This person is not even wrestling with God. They just decide, you know what? No, I am my own God in their hearts. Think of, and there are different types of narcissistic people depending on their personality. There's the in your face narcissist. Think of Pharaoh when Moses approached him and said, God said, let my people go. He responded, who is this God that I should obey him? Who is God? So in their heart. But there's also the undercover, which is a lot more difficult to recognize. And that is, think of Delilah with Samson. She used more manipulation. She used more guilt tripping. A narcissist, whether that person is an extrovert or an introvert, will always somehow, some way cause you to question your own reality. And a lot of people say, hey, what makes someone actually narcissistic? Is it biology? Is it environment? And I say, what I have found counseling-wise is two things. The first is that person has undergone trauma during their identity developmental stages, and that is 0 to 19. Okay, that person, not everyone who goes through trauma becomes that. That's not what I'm saying. But that person allowed that trauma to foster and turn into a root of bitterness, right? And so now that trauma has affected them at their sense of identity. So they're walking around with a chip on their shoulder, like the world owes them something. Despite what they went to, they're on a mission to prove whoever called them names wrong. And so at that point, they're going that route. The other one, and I always talk to mamas out there more than dads because I've seen it historically, and that is when parents during the age of 0 to 19 elevate their kids and dote over them. And I'm not talking about praise and encouragement. Praise and encouragement are great, but we are not called to act like our kids are the sun and everything revolves around them, because at that point we're setting them up for failure. Think of a kid from 0 to 19, they grow up and they are think of the golden child, that person who does no wrong. Teachers are sending notes home and the parent is like, no, I'm going to fight for my kid, and no, I don't believe the teacher. Now they're out in the workplace and they're thinking in their mind, why isn't everyone serving me the way I was served at home? They get into a relationship and they're like, well, everything that partner is doing, let's say it's a man and they're married to a wife, or a wife married to a husband, whatever that partner is doing is going to fall short of the standard that was set for them at home. And so we have to be very careful.
Yeah, we do not want that entitled generation that you're speaking of. So let me ask you, what do I do? How do I deal with a narcissist?
We have to be very adamant about, number one, we have to spend time with the Lord, because the reason that narcissist was a magnet to you to begin with is because they only go after someone who has low self-esteem. They're not going to go after someone who has a healthy level of self-esteem. Because if I come up to you, right, and I give you so much praise, it's called love bombing, and I give you so much praise from the get-go, with a healthy self-esteem, you're going to be like, something is off with this person. Why are they being that way? But someone who's starved of that praise, right, is going to soak it up, and now they're reliant on it. And that's how they become magnet with someone. So the person, if they don't know Jesus, they have to submit their lives to Jesus. That person who was abused, give your life to Jesus. That's number one. Number two, spend time with God and and start relying. First John says we rely on God's love for us. Literally, we lean on God's love for us for our identity. Spend time with the Lord. Get to know who He is. Get to know what He says about you. And of course, set boundaries. Learn how to set healthy boundaries. The narcissist is not going to like it. For example, if you're on the phone with them and they are just calling you names, or even if they're being disrespectful, you can say and honor in a way that is honoring, hey, listen, I don't appreciate the way this conversation is headed. So if it continues to head this way, I'm going to get off the phone. And if they're with you in person, hey, I don't appreciate the way you are talking to me. So I'm going to end this conversation and walk away. You're allowed to exercise self-respect.
Wow, that is so good, Kenza, because I think a lot of times, especially in society, with this term narcissist being thrown around, we all feel like, oh, we don't have any power for it, like we can't deal with it. But the power always lies within the Spirit of the living God within us. And I think that's really what you're bringing to light. Kenza, you are a gift.
Thank you so much. And that is very true. Now, it takes a lot. Listen, whenever you start setting boundaries, even when you walk away from that conversation, I always like to add this. You're going to feel guilty. It's called inappropriate guilt in the counseling world. You're going to feel bad because your brain is not used to you standing up for you. So listen, God wants you to set those boundaries. Boundaries were one of the first things God set with Adam. He said, you can eat from any tree except for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So boundaries are biblical. And another thing really quick is, outside of forgiving that narcissistic person, you have to get with the Lord and ask Him which inner vows you have made in your life as a result of narcissistic abuse. And I'm talking an example of inner vows is, let's say I grew up with an abusive parent, right? And so now I say, I will never be like my parent. Wow. Now, that may sound positive, but because I made that vow in judgment, now anytime I fall short of the standard I have set for myself, and that is being a perfect parent, I'm opening the door for the enemy to just blast me with negative thoughts.
Kenza, that is so insightful and so good. Girl, thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for being with us today on Unscripted Faith.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, you all heard it here from Kenza. You have the power within. Christ alone settled all accounts for your sake. And even as we saw in Joy and Alvin's relationship in their marriage, there's just one, if just you are invested in the future of your marriage, you know this narcissist, you have the ability to stand any tide or anything they throw your way. Christ has made you more than a conqueror. Today, walk in victory.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.